Hello and welcome to this celebration flow today. This flow is a little celebration to celebrate the launch of the Thankful Flow website and this membership. So yes, we're going to be doing a flow that's suitable for all levels. There's going to be lots and lots of options throughout today. And I suggest having kind of like some blocks or props if you have them to support you in your practice, but no worries if you don't. There'll be different options to take throughout. And yes, join me in a comfortable seated position on that. The membership, if you're watching this flow and you're new to yoga with me, these kind of flows are on my membership, along with lots of other different styles, from restorative to power flows. And if you want any further information on that, please don't hesitate to get in touch. Start to close off your eyes or take a steady gaze somewhere out in front of you if that's comfortable for you. And start to lengthen through your spine and imagine that the crown of your head is reaching up towards the ceiling. And you've got the option to bring your hands to heart center here, or you could rest your hands in your lap, whatever's most comfortable for you. And start to notice your in-breaths and your out-breaths. Notice where your breath travels to within your body. And allow your shoulder blades to run down your back. Relax through the shoulders. Taking some deep inhales and exhales. And starting to observe any thoughts coming into your mind, just letting them pass through. Starting to notice any sensations in the body. Noticing how you're feeling today. Coming back to that neutral spine position, finding length and space. And imagine on every inhale, lifting slightly up and out of the waist. And on the exhale, releasing the breath. Feeling a sense of being grounded. And when you're ready, you can start to open the eyes back up if you had them closed. Slowly coming back into the physical body. And you can start to release the hands now. And bring your hands together and interlace your fingers. And then on an inhale, stretch your arms up to the sky, pressing your palms towards the ceiling. You can take maybe you can feel a yawn coming here. And on an exhale, release the fingers and float the hands down to the side, and then see how it feels to interlace the hands behind your back. If this feels too strong, you've always got the option to just be reaching those fingertips slightly behind and taking the opening across the chest here. So you don't have to come into the interlace if that doesn't feel right for you. Keeping your connection to your breath. And slowly start to release your hands, bring them to your side. And then putting some, bringing your right fingertips to the mat and lightly hovering them on the mat. Inhale and start to sweep your left arm up, coming up and out of the waist. Your left arm coming over towards your left ear, coming into a stretch and feeling the left side body starting to open up here. And then start to float the left hand over to the left side of your mat. And then inhale, lift up and out of the waist, reach the right arm, bring it towards your right ear, coming over to the left side and feeling the right side body opening up. Keeping the sitting bones grounded, keeping some space across the chest. And then we'll start to float through these stretches now. So you can go with your own breath here, floating over to one side and then the other. This could be as slow or as fluid as you want it to be. These could be really small range of movement, or this could be a really large range of movement. So remember that it's your practice. I'm guiding you. Keep coming back to that feeling of making space as well before you come into the stretch. So bringing the ribs away from the hips first, and then easing into the stretch on each side. Coming through your last couple now. And come back to neutral when you're ready. And then start to bring your left hand towards your right knee. Your right hand's coming to the mat behind you to support. And inhale, lift up and out of the waist and start to come into a twist over to the right side. And let your gaze follow. So your gaze is coming roughly over this right shoulder. That's just the direction that it's coming in. And coming back to your inhales. On your inhale, lifting up, making space, and on your exhale, relaxing into the twist. Not forcing anything. And slowly start to release, coming out of the twist. Bring your right hand around to your left knee, starting to come onto the other side, and then bring your left hand to the mat behind you to support you. Inhale, lift up and out first, and then come over to a twist onto the left side. Allowing your gaze to follow. Keeping your sitting bones grounded. On the inhale, making space, and on the exhale, releasing into the twist without forcing anything, listening to your body. And slowly make your way back to neutral, taking your time. And we'll take some wrist flicks here, just warming up through the wrists, but also on a energetic level. You can think about here releasing anything that's not serving you today, anything that's not serving you in the present moment. And we're letting that go, flicking it away and making space. Lovely, and release when you're ready. Now starting to make your way into tabletop position on your mat. So into your all fours position here. And checking that your shoulders are roughly in line with your elbows and that your hips are roughly in line with your knees here. And we'll come through some cat and cow. So on your inhale, send your gaze forwards and open across the chest, shining your heart forwards. And then on your exhale, you drop the head and round through the spine, coming up and out of the shoulders and tuck your tailbone in. Belly button's coming in towards the spine. Inhale, shine the heart forwards. And on your exhale, rounding through the spine. Again, letting your breath lead you here. So it doesn't have to be exactly in time with me. It can be with your own breath. Making these movements as subtle or not subtle as you want them to be. Noticing the opening through your spine, observing any sensations that you're feeling in your body. Start to come through your last cat and cow now, and then meet back in a neutral position when you're ready. And then from your neutral position, we're going to come into a Mahasana puppy pose. Now, option here today, and this is just an option, if you would like to take an additional stretch through in your puppy pose, you could see how it feels to bring this right leg out to the side. So you're in your all fours position and you're reaching the right foot out to the side and that right leg's length. Now this could feel like a really strong stretch through the groin and the hip here. See how this feels? You can always bring the leg back in and then come into your puppy pose. Or if you would like to, you can walk the hands out and come into your puppy pose here with a stretch through the groin as well. So it's just an option. If this feels too strong or this does not feel right for you, then you can bring that leg back in and come into your traditional puppy. And as always, we're guiding the heart and the forehead down towards the mat. We're melting it down towards the mat, opening through the shoulders, opening through the upper back. But if it feels more supportive for you, you could take the forearms down here, or you could have a cushion or something underneath you to support you in your puppy pose. So take anything that you need. If you've come into this option with the leg out to the side, then slowly start to walk your hands back in, bringing the right leg in back to neutral, and then bring the left leg out to the side, feeling the opening through the hip and the groin, and then coming into this extended puppy position on the other side. Keeping some light engagement through the core here as well. Connecting to your breath, noticing where your limit is and coming to that place before your limit. Observing when to modify or to support yourself in your practice. Well done. Slowly start to walk the hands back in. And then if you had the left leg out to the side, you can start to bring that back in as well. And start to sit your hips back and come into a child's pose and take a pause here. So you could have your hands reached out in front of you, or you could bring them to your sides here. And let your forehead melt down towards the mat. Again, taking a cushion underneath your head or a block if that feels good. And your hips are coming towards your heels. That's just the direction that they're coming in. You could also always pop a cushion or a blanket if you've got some space here to support you in your child's pose. And start to notice your breath in your child's pose and where your breath's traveling to in your body. You can close off the eyes here if that feels good. Now remember that child's pose, you can come back to this position at any time that you need to throughout your practice. If you want to take a pause or take a moment. It can feel like a really restorative or safe place to be. And starting to open the eyes now, if you'd closed them off for a moment, start to make your way back into a tabletop position, releasing from your child's pose. And then from your tabletop position, tuck the toes under and start to walk the feet in towards the hands. So walking the feet towards the top of the mat. If you need to take your hands away here, you absolutely can. And we're going to hang down in a forward fold. So your feet are roughly hip width apart. And you can take as much softness through the knees, through the legs as you need to. And let your head and your neck hang heavy here. Bring your weight forward through the balls of your feet, through the mound of your big toe. You could take your hands on your elbows, if that feels good too, or you could let them hang down. Reconnect to your breath. Feeling the opening through the backs of the legs, through the hamstrings, through the calves, maybe through your lower back, your lumbar spine. Releasing any tension through the face, the jaw, the neck. You can give your head a little shake if that helps. An option to take a gentle sway or rock in your forward fold here. And starting to release the hands from the elbows if you had them on there. Start to curl your body up to a standing position on your mat, really slowly. So it's softening the legs as much as you need to and keeping a rounded spine here. So we want our head and our neck to be coming up last. And see how slowly you can do this. And then meeting in Tadasana, so in your mountain pose. So feet are roughly hip width apart still. And on your next inhale, sweep your hands up to the ceiling, lifting your ribs away from your hips, lengthening through the spine. And on an exhale, start to come forwards, hinging at the hips into a forward fold. Bending the knees as much as you need to. Inhale, lift the chest, lengthen the spine, halfway lift. And your hands could be coming to your thighs, your shins, maybe the mat. The most important thing is finding length through the spine here. Exhale, float your hands down to the mat, taking as much softness through the legs as you need to. And then step back to meet in a plank position, or to modify, you could take your knees down to the mat straight away. Option to pause for a moment here in your plank, setting some engagement through the core, through the abdominals, checking in with your inner line of energy that runs through the body, through the center of the body, the energy channels, your root lock, your mula bandha, your pelvic muscles. Remembering to breathe. And on your exhale, soften your knees down to the mat. And keeping your elbows tucked in towards your body, start to lower the rest of your body down to the floor. Bring the palms of your hands to the mat. And on your next inhale, roll your shoulders and lift your chest, cobra. So you could be in a lovely low cobra here. You could be in a slightly higher cobra. Listening to your body and taking what it needs from this practice. And engaging through the lower body, activating the full lower body. So tops of your feet are pressing into the mat. Supporting the spine. You're activating the legs and the glutes. Exhale, melt your chest back down to the mat. Start to press through your hands. Keep your elbows tucked in. Start to bring yourself back up through a tabletop position. And then once you're in your tabletop position, tuck your toes under, and on an exhale, send your hips to the sky for your downward facing dog. And in your downward facing dog, really pressing the mat away from you with your hands, and then finding space through the spine and the shoulders. Bringing your hips away from your ribs, belly buttons coming in towards the spine. And you can take as much softness through your knees as you need to here. Your heels are coming towards the mat, but that's just the direction that they're coming in. And send your gaze between your knees, relax the head and neck. Reconnect to your breath. Perhaps take a moment to come back to the niyama from the beginning of the practice. Svadhyaya, the niyama of self-study and self-reflection, just being aware. Remembering that you can take a child's pose at any time throughout the practice if you need to. And on your next inhale, start to bring the right foot through between the hands or in that direction. And then keeping the left hand grounded on the mat, start to reach the right hand up to the sky, coming into an easy twist. And you can drop this back left knee down to the mat here to modify. So we're going to be dropping it down together in a minute anyway, but if you want to bring it down straight away, you absolutely can. So right fingertips are coming towards the sky, and see how it feels to send your gaze up there as well. And then everybody start to drop the back left knee down and release the toes. And you can take a pause here to find some support. So if you are finding that this left knee is feeling a little bit uncomfortable or needs some support here, I recommend taking a cushion or a blanket and popping it under that back knee to cushion it and support it here. Just an option. And then starting to come out of the twist, bring your right hand and release your right hand down. An option here, if you've got blocks to support you, you can bring your blocks to frame the front right foot. And you can have your hands resting on the blocks here. So this is the first option in your low lunge to come to. And checking that this front right knee is roughly in line with the ankle. If it's coming over the ankle, then you might need to bring your foot forward slightly. And finding engagement through the right glute, the right thigh. Now you could either stay with your hands on the blocks or on the mat, or you can take an inhale with me and sweep your arms up to the sky in your low lunge. Lifting up and out of the waist, finding length. Strong engagement through the right thigh, the right glutes, and light engagement through the core as well. Feeling an opening through the left hip flexor. And then exhale, float your hands back down. And you can either reach your fingertips out behind you, taking an opening across the chest, shining the heart forwards, or option to take an interlace here behind your back. Shoulders coming away from each other. And continue coming back on the inhale to making space through the spine. Pressing the right foot into the mat, really strong through the right leg. And you can release your hands from the interlace. And here you can either bring your hands back to your blocks. You can have your hands on the mat. Or if you want to have quite an active practice today, you can have your hands away from the mat. And we're going to tuck under the left toes. And see how it feels to power up through both legs and bring yourself back to the high lunge. Now, by all means, take any support you need. So bringing your hands to blocks or the mat, or however you need to get there. And then bring your hands back to heart center. Well done, and step this left foot back in. Take a little shake or wiggle out through the legs. And we'll take a pause for a moment and ground at the top of your mat. So bring your hands out to the side in your Tadasana, in your mountain pose. And you could close off the eyes if that feels good, just for a moment. Or take a steady gaze out in front of you. And relax through the shoulders. Maybe you take a gentle sway or rock from side to side. Quite often when we close off the eyes, it alters our balance instantly. Just observing and noticing, perhaps feeling some of that heat and energy that we've just built in the body. The crown of your head still reaching towards the ceiling. And open the eyes back up if you had them closed. And we'll start to come onto the other side. So from your Tadasana, start to step your right foot back and meet me in a high lunge. So left foot is facing forwards. We've got the left knees roughly in line with the ankle. And we're finding some length through the right back leg. Now you could drop your right knee down straight away here, if that feels better for you. Inhale, sweep your arms up and lift up and out of the waist to find some length. Fingertips reaching up towards the sky. And then on an exhale, start to bring your hands down to frame that front foot. Remembering you can drop the back knee down straight away. And then start to bring the left fingertips away this time, coming into an easy twist. The word says easy, but that does not mean that it's actually easy. So just remember that. So the left fingertips are coming up towards the sky, and let your gaze follow. Remembering to breathe, reconnect to your breath. And then everybody drop the right back knee, staying in the twist if you can here, and release the toes. So the top of your right foot is connected to the mat, is lightly pressing on the mat. And then here, start to take any adjustments that you need. So if you want to pop a blanket under that back knee to support, or a cushion, you absolutely can. If you want to grab some blocks here and bring them to start framing your front foot coming out of the twist, then you can take that now. And then option, coming out of the twist, start to sweep your hands up to the sky in your low lunge. And this left knee is roughly in line with the left ankle still. Make sure you can see your big toe. If you can't and your knee's coming over, then walk this left foot forward slightly. Bringing some engagement through the left thigh, the left glutes. Engage through the core, especially your lower abdominals. And on an exhale, sweep your hands down, either reaching your fingertips out behind you, or you can take an interlace here with your hands opening across the chest. Noticing any wobbles or shakes through the body. Know that this is a good thing. This is building your joint stability and your strength. Reconnect again to your breath. Now, option to either stay here in your interlace and start to tuck the right toes under, or you could always bring your hands down to blocks here, to the mat. Take any support that you need. And then we're going to power up through both legs and bring the right knee away from the mat and meet back in a high lunge. Well done. Release the hands. Step the right foot back to the top of your mat, meeting into Tadasana. Pause for a moment, grounding through the feet. Noticing any energy through your hands, through your fingertips. Inhale, sweep your arms up to the sky, bringing your ribs away from your hips. Exhale, hinge at the hips, come into a forward fold. Soften the knees as much as you need to. Inhale, lift the chest, halfway lift, lengthen through the spine. And then exhale and just forward fold here. So we're not coming through a chaturanga here. We're just going to forward fold for a moment. And then on your next inhale, sweep the arms back up to the sky. Reaching the crown of the head to the ceiling. And exhale, bring your hands through heart center. And then step the left foot back, or whichever foot you need to step back so that you're facing me. And take a wide leg stance with the legs. And your toes are pointing forwards here, and you could actually pigeon toe your feet slightly here as well. And bring your hands to your hips. And on an inhale, lift up and out of the waist and find length first. And then start to come forwards into your Restorative Padottanasana. So legs are lengthened, and see how this feels. So you could be coming, it could be really small range of movement here. So you could be coming here, come to wherever you can feel the stretch through the backs of your legs. But as always, coming to that place before your limit. If you have blocks or props, you could pop them in front of you here and have your hands on them to support you. Or you could be maybe bringing your hands down to the floor into this stretch. And if you are coming to this place, you're working on bringing the heels of your hands in line with the heels of your feet into the fold. And make sure you're bringing your weight forward through the balls of your feet, through the mound of your big toe. And slowly start to come up from the fold now. So you could bring your hands back to your hips and keep this length through the spine as you slowly start to come back up, and keep the core engaged. Taking as much time as you need. And then start to bring the feet in slightly. And if you want to take a little shake out through the legs here, you can. That one can feel quite intense. And then bringing your feet in slightly, but we've still got the feet slightly further than hip width apart. And you're pointing the toes out roughly towards the corners of the mat. And then bring your hands to heart center, and we're coming to Malasana, into our yoga squat. So start to take some softness through the knees. So slowly lowering down. Now, a couple of different options to take here in your Malasana. So you could, if you want to, come into a really active Malasana. You could bring your forearms to your thighs. It looks more like some sort of rugby position. So you could either come here, or if you've got a block or a prop, you could pop that under your hips here. And you could come into your Malasana on your block. You could also be in a seated Malasana so that your hips are on the mat and your legs are coming out in front. And you're still in this position, opening through the hips and opening through the groin. Or traditional Malasana is always there, which is where we're hovering the hips off the mat. This is really strong on the ankles and the knee joints. So just being mindful of anything that you're feeling here. If there's a really strong sensation with the knees or the ankles, then definitely listen to that and ease off and take one of the other options. You could also come up on your toes if that feels good, to release the ankles slightly. But wherever you are in your Malasana, start to find some length through the spine. Engage your Mula Bandha, engage your root lock. So it's the lower abdominals, the inner pelvic muscles. Reconnect to your breath. If it helps, you could find a gazing point in front of you here to focus on, so a drishti. Try to maintain as much space across the chest as you can. And start to release your hips to the mat wherever you were in your Malasana. And hips on the mat, and start to bring the soles of your feet together now, coming into bound angle position. And let your knees drop out to the side. Now, if you've got any blocks or books, you can always pop them under your thighs here. If you're feeling a lot of gripping in the hips, I recommend that you pop something underneath your thighs to support you. And then you can lightly rest your hands around your ankles, and your feet are coming in towards your body. But again, if that really doesn't feel right for you, then I suggest making some more space and bringing your feet further away if it feels like too much. So come into your bound angle position, and then find some length. So on the inhale, bringing the ribs away from the hips, and then from that position of space and length, leading with the chest bone, start to come forwards into a forward fold. But you may well find that coming from this place of length and space first means that your forward fold, keeping the length through the spine, could be a much smaller range of movement than if you were doing a forward fold with a rounded spine. And know that that's okay, and that is part of the stretch. It's a very different stretch when we're coming into this place of having a lengthened spine. Returning back to your inhales and your exhales. And allowing your body to relax into the stretch. And I know I say this in some of my other classes, but you may notice that as you release and relax into the stretch, as hard as it can be sometimes, your body will naturally, over time, do what it needs to do without you needing to force anything, or without you needing to intentionally try to change anything. And slowly start to come back up from the fold. And now we'll all bring the feet slightly further away from the body now, coming into butterfly. So bringing the feet away, creating more of a diamond shape this time. And this time you have my full permission to round your spine. So we can round our spine and we're bringing our head towards our feet, but that's just the direction that it's coming in. So rounding the spine, you can come into a forward fold here in your butterfly. You could close off the eyes here if that feels good too. And then slowly starting to come up from the fold in your butterfly. Start to bring the soles of your feet to your mat with your knees bent. And you can bring your arms out in front, perhaps your palms of your hands facing the ceiling here, and bring some engagement through the core, through your lower abdominals. And then from that place, start to move backwards. So we're bringing our body down to the mat, but really strong through the core, and see how slowly that you can do this. And as always, if this is not feeling good for you today, you can bring your hands down and support yourself to get back into this lying position on your mat. Slowly releasing your head and your neck coming last, meeting the mat in a lying position with your knees bent. And then start to bring your knees in towards the body and give your knees a hug. You could interlace your hands around your knees and hug them into the body. You could take a gentle rock here. Any movement that feels good. And then place your hands on your knees, and we'll take some circles here with the knees. So imagine that with your knee that you're drawing a circle on the ceiling. You can use your hands to guide your knees around in circles, going one way and then the other. Continue to listen to your breath. And try to, if you can keep the connection of your shoulder blades to the mat here. There's a temptation to maybe come up away from the mat. And if you need to, then that's okay, but see how it feels. See if you've got space to keep those shoulder blades connected to the mat. And then start to release from the circles and bring the soles of your feet back down to meet the floor. And then we're going to come up into a supported bridge. So I would recommend, if you've got your blocks here, get them ready and put them to your side. Now, if you do not want to come into a supported bridge option, you could either come into an active bridge, or you can take legs up the wall pose, but you don't need a wall to do this. So you could have your legs in the air, and you could pop something, a block or a cushion under your hips to support you, and you could come here. So taking whatever option feels best for you. We'll get ready to come into bridge. So before you do anything, bring your pelvis up and in towards your body. And notice the connection of your lower spine, your lower back, your lumbar spine to the mat. So hopefully you will find here that you've brought some engagement through your core, and that has meant that your spine has connected more closely to the mat. And then from this place of engagement, start to lift the hips away from the mat. So we're peeling the hips away, and then slowly the rest of your spine starts to come away from the mat. Lifting the hips up towards the sky and keeping your chin tucked in towards your chest. So keep your chin and your neck in line. So really try to keep your gaze steady. So feeling activation for your legs and your glutes. And then if you've got your block to hand, we're going to make this into a restorative supported bridge. So I'll show you the low setting first. So the low setting of your block, you're popping your block just under your hips or your sacrum to support you, and you're coming into your bridge here. Or if it feels better for you, you could come onto the higher setting with your block and have your hips up higher, popping it under your sacrum or your hips. Now, wherever you are, whether you've come into your supported bridge or whether you've come into the legs up the wall pose, with or without the wall, you could start to close off your eyes here or take a steady gaze. So this is bringing us into an inversion. So any time that the heart is lifted above the head, this is classed as an inversion, and it means that the blood flow to the head and the brain increases. And this can have a really re-energizing effect and can help with focus and concentration. So reconnect to your in-breaths and your out-breaths. Start to notice again where the breath travels to in your body. Perhaps starting to come into a place of stillness. And of course, you can stay in your modified bridge for longer, or if you're ready to start coming out, you can remove the block and try to lower your spine down to the mat really slowly and let your hips be the last thing to come back down to the mat. So keeping the pelvis coming up and in towards the body, engaging through the core. Lower the hips back down, and then option to window wipe the knees from side to side really gently, just letting the spine settle, or coming out of your legs up the wall pose if you came into that option. And then start to release the legs down to the mat, coming into your Shavasana now. So we'll be here for a few minutes. So really relax through the legs, let the toes come out to the side, let your feet drop out to the side here. Bring your arms out to the side and maybe your palms of your hands are facing the ceiling. And start to let your shoulders and your hips sink into the mat. Release any tension through the muscles in your face, through your jaw. Notice any areas of your body that you could be holding, where you could be holding onto tension, and give yourself permission to release and let go of that. There is nowhere else that you need to be right now. Anything that you think you've got on your to-do list, or any demands that might be on you for the rest of today, know that you do not need to action that in this moment. You are allowed to be in a place of stillness. Imagine on your inhale that your breath is traveling to each and every single part of your body, every muscle, every organ, every connective tissue. And then it's restoring it back to its original form of well-being and health and vitality. Keep connecting to your breath. Keep breathing. And if your mind starts to wander, bring your attention back to your breath. For some of us, it might be helpful to count our breath, perhaps working on some equal breathing. So maybe that's inhaling for 5 counts and exhaling for 5 counts, or whatever number works best for you. But if you find that counting your breath doesn't work for you, it feels restrictive, then let your breath be free and natural. This is your practice, this is your time. And taking as much time as you need, and as always, if you would like to stay longer in your Shavasana today, then please do. But if you're ready to start coming out of the practice, I invite you to take a roll over to one side, Keeping your eyes closed if you can. Now pause there for a moment. So take a pause. Keeping your eyes closed. Slowly starting to bring yourself back into the physical body. And then from there, taking as much time as you need, you can start to make your way back up to a seated position on your mat, keeping your eyes closed if you can, if that feels comfortable. And then when you're ready to start opening the eyes, if you had them closed, I recommend taking a steady gaze, perhaps to somewhere on the ground in front of you. And you can take a big shoulder roll here. An option with me, bring your hands to heart center. We'll raise our hands to our forehead to acknowledge your own inner wisdom. You can bring your hands back down to your lips to acknowledge speaking your truth. To your heart to acknowledge living with compassion. And then down to the ground to acknowledge being in this present moment. Thank you so much for practicing with me today. I hope you enjoyed it.